Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate everyone that tunes in live or listens in the replay. Everyone, we've had people listening for years since the vault started for years ago now. And we're just really thankful that everyone, tunes in live or listens in the replay. Feel free to type in where you're listening in the replay as well into the chat. Where you're listening from. We always appreciate everybody typing into the chat, showing everybody where the different listeners are listening from, all around the world actually. So we appreciate everybody that tunes in live all around the world or listens in the replay. Once again, it's just always a privilege and an honor. So today's episode is the Vault episode 270, Facts versus Fear. F.E.A.R is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. And this is where we want to really kind of extrapolate some very important points today in this particular episode. So this is the Vault episode 270, Facts versus Fear. F.E.A.R is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. So, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to do this episode because so many trustees and people in general come to the vault, and we see that there's a large disparity between people that know how to discern facts versus propaganda, fear, insightful content, and data. So we're here to talk about that today. Appreciate Oklahoma for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Oklahoma. Shout out to Oklahoma for tuning in live, listening to replay. Once again, when you talk about the facts are the hard numbers, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where people are living off of the emotion. So it's a false emotion appearing real. It's not just a false evidence appearing real. It's false emotions, appearing real. And this is where we get into how do we get back to the logic side? How do we get back to the facts base? And this is the mindset of quality trustees, business owners and the like that are successful, is they focused on the hard numbers, they focus on the facts, that they make it a point to focus on those facts, more importantly a lot longer than people that are focusing on fear, because if you're focused on fear, you're not focused on the facts. And so we come to the mindset that yes, when it comes to the facts, ladies and gentlemen, somebody said the other day to Trust Christian, they said, man, if I get it from 3 sources, it's verified. That's not accurate. That sounds intelligent, but it's not accurate. If I get it from 3 different sources, that means it's true. That doesn't mean it's true. People say, oh, you just going to take that as a fact now? That's not how it works. But this is false evidence appearing real, going off of some rule that someone gave someone. Appreciate Dallas, Texas for tuning in live, listening to the replay. Shout out to Dallas, Texas for tuning in live, listening to the replay. So people want to go off of the false expectation appearing real. Is it an expectation that's appearing real? People say you got to lower your expectations, but the facts are what you produce. That's the expectation moving forward. It's facts based off of previous output, previous numbers that can be calculated. The facts. The facts aren't always in the numbers. There's a story behind the numbers. But how does that lend to fear? Well, because some people in the public financial markets are only told the story. Oh, this stock's going up because Elon tweeted this, or Trump tweeted this, or someone did this, or someone did that. But what happened to the fact that the company has reinvested the money on its books? See, that's a fact. They have to reinvest the money on the books so they can do R&D and develop those products and give out greater inventory because they developed it. That comes from the numbers. That comes from the facts. But fear is, well, we don't know. We don't know how to predict. Ladies and gentlemen, it's almost one of those things. If you're listening to the vault, you say you want to be a trustee and you got to look into the future. That's a fact. Looking into the past is the past. That's fear. False evidence appearing real. It may be, oh, well, it's a fact because it's the past, but sometimes it's about perspective when you look at things. It's about your perception. So perception is more on the fear side. It's not on the fact side. But what is your perception is a fact to you. Most of the time, for most people, their perception is their facts. But fear, on the other hand, is the story. The facts are the so-called numbers that we're looking at. But there's a story behind the numbers. How many people are doing both? Focusing on the story and the numbers. So many people say, trust Christian info, I don't know how to look at the facts, which are the numbers. Most people don't know how to look for the numbers. They don't know how to find the numbers. They don't know how to calculate the numbers. They don't know how to quantify the numbers. But the numbers are the facts. The facts are, did you do this today? Did you not do this today? If you did it 2 days in a row, you did it 2 days in a row. If you did it 3 days in a row, you did it 3 days in a row. Fear is looking out tomorrow saying, okay, I didn't do it for 3 days in a row, but now I don't know when I should do it. Fact is, you should do it. So when we talk about business, we talk about lifestyle as a trustee. See, this is trustee training in the public. This is what we talk about in trustee training. See, people come through trustee training and they think somebody came to the vault in a consultation yesterday and said, "Hey, Trust Christian, so that means I have to do some work?" Of course. It's not something where we just come through and you do everything for me and I just get the benefit of it. Ladies and gentlemen, the price point that the vault does trustee training, first of all. It does not do the setups. So when people contact and say, "Oh, I'm looking to get set up," the vault does trustee training. But so many people contact the vault and say, I want you to do all the work type stuff. See, these are your so-called fake rich people. Because rich people still want to have their hands in it. Because we deal with rich people. They still want to oversee that you're doing your job properly. That's the facts. That's why they have money, because they're overseeing money in a diligent way, not in a fearful way where they're not keeping track of finances, where they're not keeping track of income, where they're not keeping track of expenses on a monthly, on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis. See, those are the numbers once again, and those are the facts. But what happened to fear? Fear was, oh man, I don't know what the tax returns for the business or my family or the family trust was or the business trust was for the past 3 to 4 to 5 years. I don't know what those things look like. You don't know what the income was for each month, and you've been in trusteeship every single month for the past 3 years, past 2 years, past 5 years, past 20 years. You've been in trusteeship, you've been in fiduciaryship, and you don't know the tax returns. That means the income, profit, and loss statement for the entire year for the entity. You don't know that? That's the facts. The fear is not wanting to know. The fear is not even looking to go into it. That's the fear. The fear is not being accountable and knowing the numbers. Do you know what the growth year over year was? Appreciate Oakland, Mississippi. If you didn't know, in the world there is a place called Oakland, Mississippi. So there's not just an Oakland in California, there's a Oakland in Mississippi. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live from there. That's probably the really a middle of somewhere. Once again, the facts versus fear. Facts are, there's an education that you either have or you don't have. That's a fact. There's information that you don't know. There's things you know, and there's things that you know you don't know, but there's things that you don't know that you don't know. See, there's many things out there, ladies and gentlemen, and that's a fact. So we don't all know everything. And for that reason, education is the greatest investment you can ever make in yourself. Now, this may not be a common thought process for people that have gone to public school. Why? Because they think their education was free. They think that their tax dollars on the county level are going to actually paying for schools. Well, why is it that people lobby to say, well, there are teachers that are against freedom of school choice? Why? Because if you don't have a certain number of children registered in the school system, the government doesn't allocate funds to that school system. That's a fact, not fear. So some people are actually against school choice, which means you can go to any school you want, and even on the public side. So even though, if you can get there, you can so-called get a better education because their test scores are better, and supposedly all these great things are going to happen for you in your life. but we know the facts. What's the failure rate of high school? What's the failure rate of college? How much money do people lose? So it's not even, college is not a free venture. Maybe for some people it is when they forgive their student loans. The fact is, though, it creates encumbrances in a credit and debt space, which most people would agree they don't have a solid credit or debtor education properly from public school. Most people say you learn a lot about credit after you get out of school and you go into the real world and you're using credit cards. If you had credit cards while you were in school, that's great. There's some people we know that had credit cards in school, but the facts are that your education may not always come while you're in school, it may come after school. Ladies and gentlemen, we see people they have the fear to bet on themselves. That's the greatest thing you could ever be given, is the ability to bet on yourself. But people have the fear to bet on themselves. They don't want to spend $30,000 on their education and put it in their brain because they don't see that. They don't see $100,000 as a great education expenditure. They don't look at losses as a fact. A loss is something that mysteriously happens to them. They don't know why, but in a realm of a fact, a loss is a lesson. You can look at the numbers. The numbers have a story. Once again, that's what we know in trusteeship. The numbers have a story. People get in trusteeship. Oh, I don't know how this works. I don't know how that works. Well, if the numbers have a story, what was the money supposed to be allocated for? Where was the money coming from? Trusteeship. The facts, the numbers. What were your actions being taken? The facts. Oh, well, I don't know if I want to write a minute. I don't know if I want to write enough minutes. All these different things. Yeah, the normal trust Christian would have definitely went in about the fact that people don't want to bet on themselves. Some people do bet on themselves. We get quite a few people that bet on themselves and they listen to the vault. So we have both. So it's not to, pull anybody's spirits down. We're saying that there are people that they do bet on themselves and they go through trustee training and they come out like a robot, like the rest of us. They come out private trustees. They know how to operate now. For the most part, they know that there's a public and a private. You have to know that. You're aware of that. We got on the line with someone the other day. They don't know the difference between public and private, but that's why we do all these episodes. They give you contrast in different areas of how public and private relates to everyday living that you have. What is public and what's private? Private is contract. You're always contracting, but you're doing it in the public. And when you're doing it in the public, you're doing it with an unrestricted signature. That means you're not even restricting your signature because you don't know how powerful your signature is in the public. But when you understand how powerful your signature is in the public, then you make wiser decisions on how you're going to move forward with signing yourself into what's called chattel slavery, paper slavery. So when people talk about, oh, I don't want to believe in slavery and this, that, and the third, you don't need to believe in it, but people can go to jail for owing a debt. So that means there's a form of it. You don't just get to stay out and get to walk around with new clean clothes on. That's the facts. But not everybody gets taken down, Some people get off. Depends on how much money you have. Now it's based off how much of the story have you put together for yourself. The facts are that there is a private. So when someone says, "Oh man, I'm having a hard time putting it together," because you don't know the difference between public and private. That's the difference. And since you don't know, you're not going to be able to move forward until you either invest in your education and get a full education, or you move forward in a place of, oh, I can hodgepodge and piece this together. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk to trustees on a daily basis at the vault. And we got trustees telling us all the time how thankful, how appreciative they are of the vault. This is the real deal. This goes right in line with what you were talking about months ago or years ago. That's the facts. The facts are is the vault has grown. And that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. Have you grown your family's positions? We can talk to you all. Have you grown your family's positions? In the COVID era, have you grown the family position? Is that a fact or is that fear? Have you grown your family position? Have you grown them in their strength of their structure? Have you grown them in their ability to preserve wealth? Have you grown them in a position of just giving them different financial think about this. If business is based off of a skill set, how many skill sets do you have or does your family estate have? Now you could have a couple skill sets, 3 or 4 skill sets. But how many people are going out and getting 5 and 6 skill sets, or putting 3 or 4 players on their team that have 2 and 3 skill sets? But this is where we are. The facts versus the fear. You have to put together a team. So many people come to trusteeship, and this is the facts. They say, "Oh, well, I'm trying to get my family going in this type of information." Do you think this question not being asked? You're probably asking yourself this. Oh man, I think I'm different. I'm so different that my family doesn't want to invest in their private education. But I think that we need to protect our family estate. Okay, so you need to protect your family estate. That's a fact. Oh, Trust Christian, you laying down the facts right now. But the fear is that they now have to do something, whether it's with you, whether it's holding themselves accountable. Why? Because 80% of the population works a job. So if you're one of those people that is trying to stand up above the crowd, you got to be prepared. It ain't too many of us. So stop trying to get wet wood to get lit. They're wet wood. This is leadership. Trusteeship is leadership for your family estate. You think it's not? It's trusteeship, trustee training. That means that it's leadership development, communication development, not having fear of speaking in front of crowds and pitching your ideas, pitching your family ideas. There are people that want to fund your goals and your dreams right now. But oh no, because people come from a fear mentality, they've been sold the latest and greatest fear. Somebody's already doing what you're doing in the world. Some people try to say, oh, I got this great idea, but somebody's probably already doing it. So go find out what they're doing and then duplicate. But it's not that easy, Trust Christian. You make it sound so easy. The fact is, they did it. The fact is, they use the bathroom the same way you do. So Trust Christian and Evolve, we know that there's not many avenues in the public to learn private trusteeship. We know that. It's the public. So what do? We said we're going to do a trustee training. That's what we're going to do. The mentors, they ain't going to do it. They doing it all private. We're going to do it right there on the YouTube, on the iTunes, on the other platforms. We're giving you the words so you can go look up the facts. The words are the facts on the paper. So you're going to look it up in your Black's Law Dictionary. That's a fact. Because this may be a conversation that most people aren't used to having, specifically in business. The fact is, we need mentors. Fear is, I don't know how much to pay this person. And if I pay this person, that means that I'm investing in myself. And that means that I could take a loss. Exactly. That's a fact. But what are you going to do? Are you going to adjust to the facts and the odds? Or are you going to let fear haunt you and say, oh, well, I don't really know, what the outcome's going to be, not calculating your downside. But all you have to do is calculate your downside. So you calculate your downside and you say, okay, this is what my downside is. That's a fact. This is how much you're okay with going down. How much you're okay with losing on any particular venture. You have a stop limit on how much nonsense you're going to allow. How much information or data, which are facts, telling you that you should just cut this position. Wherever it is in life. Facts versus the fear. Ladies and gentlemen, we saw 4 quarters go this year. 3 of the quarters were up. If they weren't, 2 of the quarters were up. And that was after the first and second quarter. That's a fact. The fear is that there's this stuff going on. These cases, they're talking about cases. They're talking about it being a shortage on, you know, medication, shortages on food, and all these different things. And you hear these type of things, but that's not facts. That's fear. They're trying to predict the future for you. People are trying to predict the future for other people in a fear-based manner. Tell them, oh, there's going to be a food shortage. Oh, the sky's falling. Yeah, the sky's falling. Sure, the sky's falling. That's not a fact. But there's a lot of fear. Oh, don't think it isn't. That's what they're touting and what you consider mainstream media. So all of our mentors, they say don't consume mainstream media. Why? Because it's a fear-based environment. They have reds, they have blues, they play with colors, they use specific type of language, they use colorful language. That's why they call it colorful language. That's a fact. But then they spew out fear. Fear this, fear that, but the markets are not correlated to the fear, is it? Are the markets correlated to fear? Is life correlated to fear, the words that someone says out of their mouth? No. The facts is people went out and bought the new iPhone. The facts is that people went out and bought the new PS5. That's the facts. People went out and bought the new Xbox. They did. That's the facts. And those companies made money. So how many of your family estates made money during the COVID era? Did you make more money or less money in the COVID era? How many of you all can type that into the chat right now that your family estate has grown in its position, the family estate has grown in its preservation, has grown in general through the COVID era? Can you say that? Can you say that you worked the hardest this year and you produced the greatest amount of result? Can any of you all type that into the chat right now and say that you've had your best year over year? So 2019 had nothing on 2020. You actually grew in what is considered to not be a recessionary year. It was just one period of decline. It was the second quarter for most markets, they would say. And after that, the summertime picked up. They tried to use the excuse in the northern hemisphere that, oh, let's use the stupid line. Oh, well, the northern hemisphere, flu season goes down, but when the wintertime comes around, it comes back, and it's really strong. Fear. We're preparing you for the outcomes that we want you to. Fear. Somebody outside of your own verification process. That's fear. And this is so apropos for trading. It's apropos for trusteeship. It's apropos for life, because who can't live off fear? Ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing called mob mentality. When someone's scared, if they start spreading panic to others, that's what happens. They spread fear to other people. Oh, you don't think that's a good business? That's one of the best businesses to be in right now. Oh, you think it's just on Halloween? No, they have it on the news every day, telling you why you shouldn't do this, why you shouldn't do that. Hold on, someone's telling you to not get in an airplane because there's airplane accidents. Oh, hold on. Somebody's telling you not to get in the car because there's a lot of car accidents. Okay, hold on. Somebody told you don't go to space because you might not make it back. Quite a few people are making it back now. That's the facts. You don't hear people getting lost in space yet. So what happened to the business market this year, and all the people that say, hey, go ahead, count 2020 in the bag, it's over? We're in December. Most people think it's the end of the year anyways. They're ready to go into January, go ahead and get started on their lives, like they think they're going to get started on their lives. Have you been doing that? You think January 1 is going to change anything in your life other than it being a new day? You got to change it. That's the facts, not the number. Here we go. So you get into January. Are you going to make better than you were January 2020? What we get in February? Are you going to make better than February 2020? Oh, all right. Bam, the recession hit in about February. Not the recession, the plague. The virus hit in February. They shut down the markets. Bam. We lived through one of the greatest things. Most people will never see the stock market actually shut down. Like the stock market said, we're going down so fast, we're going to shut down the market. So they have these safe levers in place that said it was dropping so fast, we're going to close all the money allowed to be exchanged. So they did that this year in 2020. Where are you going to be in March 2021? Are you going to be ahead of March 2020, or are you going to be behind? People say, oh, I want the marketplace to go back the way it was. A lot of people do. That's a fact. But there are people spewing fear so the marketplace can be delayed on opening and people not exuding their freedoms. The fact is, you're supposed to be free, right? Right. So why are you talking about a vaccination shot being forced? But that's the fear. Oh, trust Christian. It's a forcing. They're forcing. I don't know about the forcing. The fact that you're having that conversation shows that you're not private yet. Because the facts are, is if you're looking to be private, then you're gonna make certain type of decisions and do certain things. And facts are, the facts are, ladies and gentlemen, is that you're not gonna be dependent on some public market and somebody telling you what type of medicines you have to be allocated. Bottom line. Appreciate West Palm for tuning in live, listening to replay. Shout out to West Palm for tuning in live, listening to replay. Once again, the fear in the marketplace, of course, is, oh, the this all around this little health epidemic. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fact that they have health epidemics all the time. Not, oh, it's a specific year. All the time. That's the facts. The fear is this one is bigger than the rest of them. What happened to all the rest of the viruses? Did they go away? They had a death rate every year. The new one, it has a death rate too. The fear. The fear is we need to focus on this one right now. The facts are there's other ones taking people out right now and have done more than the current new trend, the new fear-based thought process that can be injected into the marketplace. The false evidence appearing real, the stories of deception and lies. People say, oh man, I thought we were the honest system. You would like to think so. We all got diplomas from school. We supposedly we got the same piece of paper and it means something. And then some people got degrees and it all means the same thing, but it's just different names. Okay. That's supposed to be a fact, right? The fear is people are afraid of competition. They're afraid of knowing that there's someone else that they might not even have that education, but they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that you're mowing their lawn, that you're cleaning their toilets, to make sure that you can fix their cars, to make sure that you can tailor their clothes, to make sure that you can fly their jets. The fear is some people fear that they're not going to get in that position and they're going to end up having to do it for somebody else. Because they're not going to do whatever it takes to get out of a serving position and into more of a master position. There's a fact that there's a thing called a master and an apprentice. But how many people have invested in mentorship? How many people are counting the cost on mentorship? Well, I don't know. I'm taking a risk on myself. I could lose money. I lost money doing things before. What makes you think the best of us as money managers don't lose money? What makes you think that? What makes you think any money manager is not losing money on a venture at any moment? The only difference is some of us at the end of the year, we end up year over year better. Month over month better. There might have looked like it was dim and dark, meek moments in this past 2020, but guess what? We came out this year and we're better. We're up year over year. This was actually our best year in life. How about that? Can you say that to yourself? This is the best financial year you've ever had in your life? Guess what? Some of us can. Oh, trust Christian, I can't believe that. How does someone have anybody to say that? How can they say that? We can say that at the vault. Trustees at the vault can say that. Year over year financially. Why? Because they grew. They grew assets. They grew holdings. Incremental or not, they grew assets, they grew holdings. The fear is, well, you got to wait for a stimulus check. That's the fear. Are you serious? How could anyone have waited for that check? But the facts are, people did wait. So where are we at now? We're at, are you going to focus at the facts or are you going to focus on the fear? The facts are, you have the ability or you are called to do something. We know this at the vault. We know that you have a position that you need to fulfill for your family estate. That's a fact. The fear that people are going to give you is that, oh, you don't need to invest in your education with that private organization. You should just stay out and surf the internet, www, World Wide Web. You can get it on the internet. Everything's free. Everything's Googleable. Think about it. Our public school education was free. Look, we went to college for free on student loans. Everything's free. Appreciate Brooklyn for tuning in live, listening to the replay. Shout out to Brooklyn. Of course, everything's not free. That's a fact. Some things are more valuable than others. So that's where we are. You investing in your private education. There are private organizations outside of the vault. Many of them. But it's not that many doing trustee training the way the vault's doing it. The vault's doing it the way that it's not going to ever be done again. We're doing it the way that we know that is a Trust Christian exclusive. It's the vault exclusive. Because when you're able to have a free flowing conversation, you can have a conversation in honesty and in candor where, look, no one at the vault is going to affect the vault's holdings. Why? Because we're in the asset position, not in the debt position. So people that listen in live, oh, they just want to get free game. That's great. We appreciate people that listen in live and listen in live and they listen to replay. Sure, but the facts are, is we're sitting in the rooms, just like the rooms that we say we would like to hear our listeners sitting in, which are sitting in high income, high net worth individual environments that are focused on leadership development, that are focused on technique, that are focused on the numbers, that are focused on asset holding and asset growing. Bottom line. That's why next to our names, we have a thing called AUM, assets under management. How many zeros, how many commas do you have assets under management? That's a fact. Usually people aren't going to put numbers next to their name that they're lying about either. Especially in our environment, they're not. Because you're gonna get verified. People aren't gonna do business with you if you can't get verified. In our environment. But for somebody coming from an unaccredited investor position, think about it. You're locked out of financial information. When you're not making a certain amount of money, you're locked out of financial information. That's a fact. So why is there not a fear there where it's like, oh man, I need to get the education that I need because there's a fact that I don't have a good financial education because I went through public school and they didn't give it to people. That's a fact. But the fear is, hey, don't worry. There's so many incompetent people walking around. You can be that. No, we're in an environment where Trust Christian and Vault, where we're in their wealth environments, they need to hear due diligence because that's what people like to call it, due diligence. But no, due diligence is being the best manager you could be. Bottom line, whether it's growing, whether it's buying or selling assets. That's a fact. The fear is, oh, well, that's complicated. Hold on. So how is finance complicated, but your life's not complicated? This is interesting. We actually are going to do a Q&A episode. We'll see if we're going to queue up something where we're going to announce here possibly before the end of the year, see if we can pull off a live Q&A session on the YouTube. So stay tuned. We'll post the date and the time. Probably could just be a standard Tuesday session, and we'll just do a live Q&A, kind of wrap up, give some of the audience the opportunity to kind of, finally come in and say their piece about the vault. So people just know that this isn't, Trust Christian and Vault. Oh, Trust Christian, you've been doing this for years and we haven't seen anything in the public. Exactly. Because we do private workshops. We're private. That's a fact. The fear is, oh, those private organizations, you're taking a risk on them. Aren't you taking a risk every time you get in your car and go to your job? Aren't you taking a risk every time you get in the car and you go to the grocery store? Ladies and gentlemen, people don't take the risk from public to private because of their education. Oh man, what do you mean trust Christian? I thought we didn't have one. So how are we going to get into it if we know, how are we going to know all of it and then get in it? You're not. That's the problem. People know too much. They're over prepared. You think you're underprepared. Most people live in fear. So if you live in fear, of course you're living. Oh man, I got to keep some water on deck. Oh man, I got to keep some frozen foods on deck. That's the fear. The facts are, people haven't seen a Great Depression in over 100 years. Even though they'll be on the news and they'll say, well, this is sort of like the Great Depression, the ramifications, the market going down so fast. And, they start adding noises like they're rappers and ad-libbing. That's what they do on the public airways. Their eyebrows, their inflections, their makeup, everything about it says what? It says, we want to incite a feeling. Oh, okay, fear. So, Trust Christian, you saying we can't listen to mainstream media or news? What is a fact that's in the public then? What can we go to that's a fact in the public? Many alternative sources, ladies and gentlemen. Many alternative sources. Think about the platforms that are promoted to you in a major way: the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Googles. Those are promoted to you because you're on the public side. But there are tools on the private side, yes. Different type of search engines. On, these platforms definitely are available to you. Different type of media sources that are putting out me. See, we're living in an era where you can't just bank on the $1 million horse anymore. There are horses that are jockeying, that are willing to put their neck out on the line and actually go after the guts and the glory and win the race. And there are horses like that are in second tier websites. It doesn't have to be YouTube. It doesn't have to be Facebook. It doesn't have to be Google. It doesn't have to be Instagram. It can be many other platforms. People see new platforms popping up all the time. People are talking about this new one. What is it called? Clubhouse or something of that nature. Like, there are new platforms popping up all the time. LinkedIn is an old school one. These are companies that have established themselves as a quality, heavy foot traffic domain. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen. You can't deny that the internet has taken over your life. Can you deny that? Internet ain't taking over my life. Do you remember every cell phone number in your cell phone? No, but you got it in there. That's a fact. But the fear is, well, you don't want to lose your cell phone. You want to make it part of your body. So, we're going to give you this chip. You can put it on your body and you can just touch it. And, whenever you want to make a phone call, it'll make a phone call. But we're going to make sure it's registered to the Social Security number. Oh, okay. The facts are, you had an ample opportunity in 2020 as you listen live and possibly in the replay for the next 30 days to have educated yourself into a position where you pivoted. There are many entrepreneurs that pivot. You can't say that the best of them haven't pivoted. Warren Buffett, it's not that Warren didn't pivot. Warren is a long-term investor. The man didn't become a billionaire until after 50 years old. So if you're looking to become a billionaire before 50 years old, that means you might have to do a few pivots. Now, guess who's done it before they were 50? Mark Cuban, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates. These are people that have pivoted. And even if you look at when we say Bill didn't just focus on one aspect of the computer. He increased the product selection for the company, so the company can have multiple assets that it's holding that are yielding returns for the company over a lifetime. But how many people are thinking about acquiring multiple assets? They're not. They're not diversifying their portfolio. Even though we hear from some investors in the public now, oh, diversification is diversification. Don't do that. It's not wise. Well, we already know. In the public, it's not diversification. You have to diversify your education and your skill sets, communication and leadership. How good are you in those areas? Because the best leaders are in business. The best leaders are the leaders of Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1000 companies. The best leaders, because they're managing lots of people. They're managing not just a workforce, they're managing a consumer base. They're listening to their consumer. That's a fact. How? They're collecting data. What is Google doing? The best company, best leadership, has some of the best leadership, and they have some of the best data analytics. They're analyzing their consumer all the time. They're spying on you in your emails. You typed in their email software, you sign a disclosure agreement, you said that if you type into their email, you're giving them access to whatever's being said. That's called a fact. Oh, no, trust Christian and fear. We're going to put these people in front of the government. Okay. The people in the government are using Google. The people in the government are using Google. So, they're using Google software. Google has contracts with the government. All right. We just want you to kind of tell us what's really going on here in this division. Tell us how you're making money. But the fear is, oh, we're going to shut these people down. No, you're not. Why? Because they're using Google in politics. Oh, okay. Didn't know that, Trust Christian. That's a fact. We can go on and on all day about the facts and the fear, but the education is what's quintessential. We are encouraging people to invest in their education, their private education, or otherwise, because that is how you're able to diversify your portfolio as a manager. So you can pivot in times of need, where you can put your cup on, you can pull out another cup and collect some of this water. Because there's been a hemorrhage of cash that has shifted to tech stocks. People say, how is Tesla stock going up? And how is Tesla stock going up at the time, during the COVID times? And how's Tesla stock going up at the COVID times? Were people not buying cars? Were people buying cars? See, people don't understand how the stocks work. They don't know how money can be dumped in privately and publicly. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's public and private. It's business, not personal. Christian at Trust Christian if you want to reach out to the vault. Once again, that's Christian at Trust Christian if you want to get a consultation. Christian at trustchristian.com. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, the facts are we've been doing trustee training successfully for 5 years plus. And we're going to continue to keep doing trustee training at the vault. But our mentors have been doing trustee training, and they did this back in the 80s. Back in the 90s. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to diversify your mentor set. That's a fact. Not having fear to invest in yourself and invest in your education. How many people are going to do that, though? In business, we could say it does go to the smartest, but it doesn't. We could say it, but it doesn't. Because there are inventors that are smart, but they don't run businesses. They don't run family estates. That's what we have listening as a listening audience. People that want to put their family in a position where they are protected, and not only from that position, but they're growing successfully from generation to the next generation. Appreciate Antioch, California for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Antioch, California. We could say that's in the middle of nowhere, but it's not. It's just California. California is big. Appreciate Antioch though. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's the fact versus fear. False evidence appearing real, false expectations appearing real. These are things that didn't appear real. People say, oh, I got to stop watching the news. How am I going to know the weather, Trust Christian? That's the one question we used to get. Well, what do? You just go watch the Weather Channel. That's, and that's not a fact. That's just a prediction. And that's the best part about watching the Weather Channel, is it teaches you that in life, the fact is that you can't predict the weather. But you can definitely you can predict the weather. It's not a definitive. It's not a fact, but it's definitely an opportunity to predict it. The fact is that we can predict it. The fact is we know our odds. And think about it. Modern science is so advanced. They got so much data in different hemispheres that they know what the weather is supposed to be like. So this is how you know they can actually control the climate. When I say they, there is a community of people, scientists, that they would love to control the weather. So there are people that are looking to say we can control the weather, but really they're just predicting it. Oh wow, we're predicting that the Earth's going to get warmer. They did predict that, and it is. That's why glaciers are melting. They've always been melting. The Earth was too hot for humans at one point, right? Yeah. It cooled down. We went into a glacier period, and now the glaciers are melting. But they've been doing that for a long time, and we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there. But there are people that want to control the weather. That's a fact. The fear is that people are at the whim of those people, and you don't have to be. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to share with your friends, subscribe, get notifications. Christian at trustchristian.com for a consultation. Hear from